Senator Gustavo Rivera, how are you this morning?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. A very eventful weekend. So I was glad to see so many people out there doing the right thing and standing up to this guy.
Speaking of standing up to people, Senator, you went in early for the Democratic nominee for mayor, Zohran Mamdani, Assembly Member Zohran Mamdani, and you were really vocal in your sort of dislike and disdain for former Governor Cuomo. Talk a little bit about the why. I know you ran against the IDC, Pedro Espada. Um,
So yeah, this is what is known in the what is known as ancient history. So I will tell a story about back when the dinosaurs roamed the earth. Uh, I was elected to the Senate in the same year that Andrew Cuomo was elected as governor for the first time, 2010. In the beginning of my tenure, just like everybody else, excuse me, but at the beginning of my tenure, just like everybody else, I was scared of him. I knew that he was politically powerful. I know that he was petty. I knew that he knew how to use the levers of government to punish people who were his who resisted him or were his detractors. Excuse me, were his detractors. And so at the beginning of my tenure, I was just as resistant to criticize him as anybody else. But it became clearer and clearer the more that I served that I knew that his actions, although from a distance, looked like those of a leader who actually cared about people and was trying to solve real New Yorkers' problems, were mainly, or just everything was about himself. Everything was about self-aggrandizement. Everything was about him filling his enormous ego, uh, acting out in ways that the people, anybody who resisted him, he just punished. There was no space for criticism. It became clear that his actions were actually hurting the people that I represented. And so I was one of the first people who consistently stood up to him publicly as an elected official, which was to my political detriment at times. But I knew that if I wanted to go to sleep at night and be able to look at myself in the mirror, I knew that I had to stand up for my constituents. And that meant standing up against all the actions that I knew that he was taking that were harming my constituents, particularly during the pandemic. That was a particularly rough time because that was when the reality was the farthest away from the perception. He was perceived as a national leader, as somebody who was leading the way and protecting people, and I saw on the ground that that just wasn't the case. That he was doing everything in his power to just make it seem like that was the case, but it was never about saving people's lives or keeping people safe or healthy. So I was very glad to know where he when he resigned. I toasted him. I toasted his resignation in an airplane. I was watching in an airplane monitor. I have a picture of it I can show you of me toasting with bubbly. I actually asked the folks up there for some champagne to be able to toast his demise. And yet he tried to make a comeback. So on top of the fact, and I know that we'll talk about Zoran, and I think the world of him, and I'm very much looking forward to what his mayoralty is going to be like. The idea of being able to help out somebody that is going to do so well for the city, and at the same time be able to kick Cuomo's teeth in on a regular basis, like that's just Christmas to me.
Senator, why Zoran, not Brad Lander, some of the other folks that ran that share your sort of same politics? Why did you land on Zoran and you went in early and you went in hard?
And I'll say that I mean I have nothing but respect for Brad, and I think, and as you know, I ranked him second out of I mean, to go back, right, we're talking about the primary. There is a ranked choice system
Mhm.
in the city of New York, which allows for people to be ranked. And these are folks that you think might do a good job. And I certainly think that Brad would have done that, Zellner as well. The Michael Blake, et cetera. These are folks that I respect and I think would have done a good job. But the reason I ultimately went with Zoran as my first choice, and the conversations that we had going back to January. I mean, we'd known each other for the last couple of years, but I really got to know him really well in after January when we started to sit down on a regular basis to talk about. He was seeking my support and he was kind of laying out these are the things that I'm doing in my campaign and this is my vision for the city. And it became clear that not only did he have a vision which was about being bolder than a lot of other folks and challenging some of the status quo, but at the same time, humility enough to know that there's things that he doesn't know. And he wants, I believe him when he says that he is somebody who cares about putting this government to work for the people and making the city affordable for people who can't afford to live here. And I think that and there he has, and on top of all of that, anybody who sees him recognizes that we have a uniquely gifted and talented person in being able to connect with people, being able to communicate effectively with people. I believe that that is what we need right now as a Democratic Party. We need effective communicators that can connect with folks across the spectrum. He's able to do that, and so for me, it was he can do the best job, um, and um, and I wanted to be able to be there to help him out.
Senator, when I met you, you were chief of staff to Andrea Stewart Cousins, the Senate Majority Leader. But prior to that, you had a long life as an operative. You worked on many campaigns. You ran campaigns. What do you think he did to distinguish himself, coming from last to first? As again, now put on your hat as someone who again has helped people get elected,
Right,
who came out of that as well. You've worn that hat as well. What do you think ultimately was the why, and talk about the campaign, the messaging, the strategy, and why he won the day?
there will be books written about it. There's no question, and certainly, they're all the credit. So much credit is due to all those folks that were heading the campaign. Certainly, Zoran himself, Elbisgard Church. There's a couple of other folks that were part of the core of the whole thing. But I would say there's a few things. First, excuse me, I think there's a level. New Yorkers are not New Yorkers know bullshit artists, and he's not that. I think that there's a level of of genuineness, if you will, that comes through when people start talking to him, when people connect with him. So that's number one. So being consistent in who you are throughout the whole thing, being a good listener, because remember, one of the first things that he did um, was came to the Bronx right after November 4th of last year, after Trump had won, and talked to a whole bunch of people in the Bronx, my constituents, most of them, who voted for Trump. And most of them were people of color, working class folks who were telling him this is the reason why I chose to not vote for the Democrat and vote for Trump, because I think that there's some changes that are needed in my life. He listened to that. So he's a good listener. There's a the fact that he is genuine has remained true to the whole thing. He outworked everybody else. It can't be said enough that one of the things that I tell potential candidates all the time over the years has been you got to focus on the work, not the shine. The shine is going to be there for, you're going to do well for a little bit, but work always outlasts the shine. And he worked relentlessly during months and months and months and months. He kept his message very consistent. If you go to the first video that he released, the campaign launch video, and he talks about affordability, he talks about freezing the rent, he talks about free and fast buses. This is this is what he is saying, what he said on the debate stage just a couple of days ago. There's a consistency in the message that has been there. There's also the happy warrior aspect of it. The fact that unlike Cuomo, who doesn't know how to do anything except to make people fearful, and Trump is very good at this, to make people fearful, as opposed to that, he's making people hopeful. So you take all those things together. You got terrible candidates like Eric Adams and Andrew Cuomo, who are just two terrible people and who are trying to, make a case that was based on you need to be fearful, the city's falling apart, I'm the only one that can hold it together, whatever, whatever, whatever. It's easy enough to point to them and say they're terrible, but then you got to offer an option. And so all of those things together, you said these guys are terrible, but here's the actual option. And there he is talking about things that connect with you in a real way. Um, as constituents, he wants to change these things in a positive way. He relentlessly did that. Last thing I'll say on this, is that he's proof positive of something that I've known to be true for a very long time. It's that there are messages that can be delivered regardless of who you're delivering them to. Uh, they can be delivered and they can be understood by people who want their lives to change for the better. When I fought my colleagues in the past about higher taxes, I said we need to raise taxes on the wealthy, and they would start freaking out because, well, we can't talk about higher taxes because that's a death knell, that's a political suicide. We can't talk about higher taxes. I said, well, you can just message that by saying higher taxes on the wealthy, and that does not mean your upper middle class families that make $200,000 to $300,000 a year as a family of four. That's not who I'm talking about. I want the multimillionaires and the billionaires. We can deliver that message, or I can deliver the message about the New York Health Act and how I believe that healthcare is a human right and should be available to everybody. I drop me in the most red part of New York State or the most red part of the country, and I will find people who don't want to have an insurance company dictate what healthcare they get or not. So again, Zohran did that. Zohran was able to demonstrate in a real world thing, in a real world way, that you can communicate to everybody using the same message as long as you connect with people, real people's lives. And all of those things together, you know, and in the package that they're in, I mean, the guy is very talented. So all these things together, amazing to watch.
Gustavo, now talk about again. Keep your operative, keep your campaign hat on. Why is Mayor Adams a one-term mayor?
Because he focused on the shine.
Can I say something just my own?
Please.
When you think about messaging,
Yeah.
and when you think about Assemblymember Mamdani and freeze the rent, I remember back the first town hall that the current mayor did in Washington Heights. And the housing advocate talked about the rent freeze and, being a senior and having issues paying rent like a lot of people on fixed income.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to sort of quote his response, but let's just say when you look at the time frame of when he said that and when that happened, and ultimately the messaging of, the Democratic nominee, the assembly member, I don't know. Those words came back to haunt him to some extent, or
The,
the way he responded, for
the,
better
the
or
way
worse.
the way the mayor
Yes,
responded.
correct. Yes, yes.
The
So go
answer,
into why your own analysis
the
of
answer
why
to
he's
the
run for mayor.
why is Eric Adams a one-term mayor? Because Eric focused on the shine. Thing about Eric, and I've known him for a long time. I did not support him when he ran for mayor, and people ask me why. I says because I served with him as a senator. So I saw who he was when there was no cameras around, when there were no constituents around. It was just us boys, so to speak. And there's some people in your life who say things around you when there's nobody else around because they think they can, you know what I mean? And then you find out like, whoa, this is what you really believe. So Eric has always been this guy. And as a mayor, he focused on the shine. He gave agencies to people that were, for lack of a better term, hacks, that were just his friends, his pals, his buddies, with no sense of whether they could actually run the thing or not. He surrounded himself with yes people. He loved to go out till 3 or 4 in the morning. And hey, if that's your lifestyle, that's what you want to do, that's fine. But this whole notion for him being mayor was about the coolness of being mayor, like the chic of being mayor. I get to be the mayor of New York City. Yeah, it he never showed like a real concern for actual governance, and that started to show. And the fact is that when you surround yourself with hacks who don't particularly care about governance, they're going to figure out how to do their own thing their own way, which is the reason why there are so many indicted folks in his administration. The reason why many of us, and I was one of the first to do so, asked for his resignation last year, this is before he was indicted, was because it was clear to us that he wasn't indicted yet, but there was a whole bunch of people around him who were, and a whole bunch of people around him who were still in the process of going through the motion of their legal cases. He is not. He is not somebody who ever cared about real governance. He is somebody who always cared about the shine. He always cared about Eric. Eric cares about Eric, and I am glad that he's going to be a one-term mayor because he was a loser to begin with, and I'm glad he's going to be gone. God bless you, dude. Have a good life. Go away.
Senator, let's talk a little bit about the Somos
Yep.
Conference. I want to hear your thoughts as to where it is. The original mission. You're a native of Puerto Rico. Um, Talk a little bit about the conference and the initial founding of it with Angelo Del Toro and folks from many years ago, and the significance of the conference and whether it's meeting its goals or not. I want to hear your thoughts because you're also a professor.
I've been in front of a classroom in a few years, but yes, I am. I've definitely been a professor for many years. I'd say, listen, I think there's first of all, I'll say about Karines Reyes, who I have so much respect for. She's the current chairwoman, and I have I really I like her personally, but I respect her professionally. I remember the fact that she was when she got to the assembly, there was a sense from some people that she was just going to be that she was going to be like a a hack for the county organization in the Bronx, and that just didn't prove to be the case. It's like she worked with them when she needed to, but she kind of made her own way when she needed to. Has so I have a lot of respect for her, and when she became chairwoman, there's some things that she's trying to do to get this organization and its mission to kind of go back to the beginning of it. And so I'm certainly supportive of the idea that there's a deep connection between the Latino population and the government of the state of New York. There's so many of us who are part of it. There's so many of us who represent so many Latino communities here, whether it's Puerto Ricans or Dominicans or Mexicans, Colombians. Keep going down the list. And so the conference, which was founded way before I was part of state government, and I just, I found out about it as I started to work in state government and around it. Um, it was as a way to kind of build Latino power, and there's times when it has not done that very well, um, and sometimes when it has done it well. And I think that what Carines is trying to do now, and I think she's been fairly successful at it, is bring a level of seriousness back to the thing. That there were many years when I would not go because there's two for folks who don't know. There's one in Albany and there's one in Puerto Rico. The Puerto Rico one, or it's happened in Puerto Rico historically, potentially might happen someplace else in future years, but regardless, it's happened in Puerto Rico and it happens immediately after the general election. And for many years, it just seemed to me that it was the place where people went to party, which is, fine. But people go on vacation. They've had long campaigns. God bless America. Go to the sea, swim a little bit, do some scuba diving, whatever. Um, but it seemed to me that it was more that it just became more and more about the party. And again, remember the shine and the work thing, that it became more about the party and less about the actual work of governance, the opportunity to have both constituents and nonprofit leaders and community-based organizations, et cetera, have direct access to leaders in the Latino community and to elected leaders and to build power and to kind of build an understanding of how to achieve better things, or particularly coming off of elections when a new mayor is going to come in or a new state senate majority is going to come in, like taking those opportunities to kind of build those connections so that come January when we're back in Albany, we're doing better work together. That had kind of been lost a little bit to me, and I think that Cardenas is doing a good job of putting some substance back into it. And I'm looking forward to the one that we're going to have in just a few weeks, actually.
Senator, thoughts on moving it? Do you care? Are you agnostic, like having it in other places? I know Dominican Republic's been mentioned. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah.
Or
I think
are you
listen,
agnostic?
I think that the chairwoman has made a very good case that the Latino community in the state of New York is not just Puerto Ricans. It's like we're certainly an important piece of it, and it was Puerto Ricans who started it, who started the conference. The conference was an outgrowth of the task force, right? Which was in turn, when there were enough Latinos in the assembly, they brought the notion that there needed to be some sort of, excuse me, task force together that was more about Latino issues, an opposition, not an opposition to, but parallel to the caucus, right? So you have the Black, Hispanic, Latino, and Asian caucus, right? It was not always the Black, Hispanic, Latino, and Asian caucus. It was the Black caucus first, then the Black, Hispanic, the Black, Latino, and then Asian, etc. So um, there was always the task force as a parallel, entity was always more about Latino issues, but the Latino community is far broader than just Puerto Ricans. So I certainly would, and I know that there might be some logistical issues about doing it I mean, Puerto Rico. There's something about the fact that Puerto Rico it's the United States, right? It's a territory of the United States, so there's a lot of ease of travel and using the same currency, and it's like there's a lot of things that are easier to do than going to a foreign country, but that doesn't preclude that we should look to the fact that we have growing Colombian populations, growing Dominican populations. We certainly have a large Mexican population already here that are making up part of what the New York Latino community is, and therefore potentially hosting it in different countries. That's certainly something that I'm open to. And I will see how the board and the chairwoman, whatever conclusion they come to, I will certainly, be supportive of it.
Senator, I want to wrap this up and hold to the time, but I want to hear directly from you. And I've
Okay.
always wanted to ask you, why no on LaSalle, on Hector LaSalle? Why?
I will tell you. And
There's
I
a
will
lot
tell
of
you.
people like, oh, he's from Puerto Rico.
Right.
This is the first. And I want to hear directly from you because
Okay.
I don't have to tell you this business is a lot of whatever, a lot of good, but there's also a lot of,
But I
the truth
absolutely
lies somewhere in the middle, right? But I want
right.
to hear directly from you.
And you will get it directly from me. And for folks who might be listening who do not know what we're talking about, 2 years ago, I think at this point, right? It was beginning of last year, probably. There was a space in the Court of Appeals, which is the highest court in the state of New York, and there was an opportunity for the governor to nominate someone. The process to nominate this person comes first. There is a committee that comes up with a list. This list was of 9 people. Then of these 9 people, the governor picks one. As soon as this list was made public, there was an analysis that was made of the record of different folks, etc. And there was a lot of analysis and all this, and then it was provided to us. And to be clear, for folks who don't remember this, the way that it works is that the governor nominates one of these folks, and they are approved by a vote in the Senate. This is not a vote to the public. This is not a vote in the Assembly. It is the vote in the Senate. And so the senators, me included, looked at all the records, looked at all the recommendations, had conversations, and some of us tried to have conversations directly with the individuals that were nominated in some instances, and we'll get to that. We'll get back to that in a second. And we had communicated privately as well as publicly to the governor. These 3 would be kind of acceptable. These 3 would not be and this one person would not be acceptable. And that person that was not acceptable was Hector LaSalle. Why? I do not believe, as some of my colleagues did say at the time, that this was somebody in the Scalia cut, or in other words, like a ultra conservative justice that should never be approved. That is not my argument. It was never my argument. However, my argument has been that looking at his record did not show me that we would have somebody who would be a strong, unbending advocate for the important things that we need to make sure that we maintain in the state to protect New Yorkers. We have to look at the real context of where we are. We have a Supreme Court that is actively taking away the rights that we've tried to gain over decades, whether it's for women, whether it's for immigrants, whether it's for LGBTQ, you name it, they're trying to take it away. On top of that, we have a government in the White House that is actively trying to destroy basic democratic institutions, and many of us knew that that was going to happen because we're in the middle of that battle. That this is what's happening. This is not a Roe v. Wade is no longer the law of the land, right? 5 years ago, if you would have told somebody we're now going to have Roe v. Wade, they would have said it's the law of the land. It's settled law. Therefore, for me, in the consideration, it was just the argument that was made to me was like, is the guy a professional? Sure, but he seemed like a careerist who had an okay career, but was basically doing the things that were necessary for him to get to the next level. For me, I needed more than that. And the opportunities that I had, the opportunity that I thought I would have to be able to ask him directly was taken away from me because an hour before he was supposed to show up in my office, they said the governor's office canceled the meeting. So I didn't even have an opportunity to address it directly with him. And privately having conversations with people who were supporters of him, they basically said, well, it was not worth meeting with you at all because you already made up your mind. And I said, I want to make sure that you understand that for me, this is not just having an easy at the end of your name. It's not just, I am not going to say just because you're a Latino means that you're a good person, because that's not the case. And I'm not saying he's a bad person, but was he the appropriate person at this time in history? The answer is no. For me, it's not enough to say having a Latino there is what's important. These are basically the same type of folks who would have argued, well, having an African American as a mayor is good enough. So that's why you should support Eric. And I'm like, no, he's not a good dude. He's not going to be a good mayor. And in this case, he would have been an okay justice, but I don't want that right now. Right now, we just don't need okay. Right now, we need somebody who's going to be unflinching against the battles that have to be fought on the rights of New Yorkers. And I just was not certain that he was going to be able to do that. So, and I've had the battles privately and publicly with folks. And there's folks who to this day, see me as some sort of, as a vende patria, whatever they want to say. And if that's the case, then they, they can call me that if they want, but I'm very clear on who I am, why I made that decision. I would make it again. I would do it again. Um, and I think you can't just expect that just because if you throw a list of people with like Rivera, Gutierrez, Soto, and in front of me, that I'm just going to say they're all great. You have to bring something a little bit more to the table than just, that you know how to dance salsa and your parents were born in Mayagüez. I can't, that's not enough for me.
Let's do the lightning round before we wrap. What would you tell your 21-year-old self? What advice would you give yourself?
Stop freaking eating. You're going to get fat, dude.
Three most influential books you've ever read.
Oh,
They change the way you view the world and the way you think. And
oh, might have them here. The Power Broker, without a question. So the Power Broker, which is the biography of Robert Moses, um, is it's an epic book about New York State politics that I love. I would say the weirdly enough, the Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. My dad, it's a management book from the 80s, and my dad was in um, pharmaceutical companies for all his life, and he was a management guy, and so he brought this book home, and I've always remembered it, particularly one habit in particular. uh, Seek first to understand and then to be understood. That's one of my favorite habits. Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. And man, you know what I'm going to say? You know what I'm going to say? It's not a book per se, but it's my favorite comic book of all time, and that is Watchmen, a
hmm,
masterpiece by Alan Moore. It's written back in 1985, and it's a phenomenal. It's phenomenal all around. So I'm a big nerd, so it's one of the things that I love, that that I love. So those I'd say those three. I could have many more because I just have a bunch of them that I'm looking at right here.
three
Three.
three people in government that helped shape you, that you worked for, that you've worked with. Three people in government that again you admire, you respect, and they get it.
Without a question, Liz Kruger is a person that, first of all, I think I would literally take a bullet for this woman. I love her dearly as a person. One of the smartest, if not the smartest person in state government. Um, just, ethical, hardworking, smart. I love her to death. Um, I would say that she's no longer with us, because she was not necessarily in government. Elizabeth, Jesus Christ, I forget her last name right now because I just called her Elizabeth all the time. She used to work for Vocal New York, was an advocate on harm reduction. used to live right around the corner from me in the Bronx. Every time that you would see her, she'd put a big smile and she said, like, "Thank you for coming to work today." But she was one of the people that best educated me on uh, harm reduction, what it means to, how to keep people alive. And she passed away. She passed away a few years ago. Um, and uh, you're making me think about people I haven't thought about in a long time. And somebody else who did you ever meet Peter Santiago by any chance? So Peter Santiago was he's a former staff of mine, but way before he was a staffer, he was actually a mentor. He used to work for Acorn, which is back in the day,
Yeah.
and he was like an organizer. Like he was one of the first people that I actually worked with as a community organizer. Um, and he passed away during COVID. He was a constituent. He passed away in the bad days of COVID. Those are just three folks I can probably name, and I'm just thinking about more folks who passed away. Um, but certainly, um, certainly Liz Kruger is somebody who I work with on a day-to-day basis. So those are three folks. Probably think of more, but those are the folks that come to mind first.
Three greatest salsa artists, and we'll wrap there.
Oh,
Top, no, you gotta go one, two, three.
Ruben Blades is
Number one,
will always be my number one. Will always be my number one.
Ruben Blades.
Ruben Blades, I think. See, I love Hector, but I want somebody whose voice is better. Like I love his feeling, but I like um Ismael Rivera, so
Two.
Maelo classic. He's absolutely phenomenal. Uh man. And you know what? Just to throw somebody in there who was died way too young. Talk about some people who died. It's like Frankie Ruiz, man. Frankie Ruiz was the bomb.
Okay, Ruben Blades,
Live Maelo.
Ismael Rivera, and Frankie Ruiz.
Yeah, man. Those are people, three dope dudes. Three dope dudes, and one of them still with us.
Best singer in Puerto Rico. Best singer to come out of Puerto Rico. Best singing voice. Best voice.
Really? Are you doing that?
That could be, Daniel Santos. That could be
Danny Rivera's no
Danny
joke.
Rivera, yes.
Danny Rivera's
Could
no
be
joke.
Joe Feliciano.
Choferino is great. I'm not gonna say it's Mike Anthony's an amazing,
Mark Anthony.
talented guy. He needs to slow down a little bit on the partying though. You can kind of tell that it's like, he should look to some of the
Santa
folks.
Rosa.
Santa Rosa phenomenal. Santa Rosa phenomenal. He's like,
Okay, but you got to pick one.
I gotta
In
pick one
your
like
humble
best voice.
opinion, the number one, the best singer to come out of Puerto Rico. Andy Montañez is another one who's got a great voice.
No, it's like you just keep throwing more folks in there. It's like I'm just gonna say, you know what? I'm just gonna say Maelo. I'm just gonna Maelo. Yeah.
Okay,
It's like
fair.
there's some classic about it because obviously Ruben is not Puerto Rican, he's Panamanian, but Maelo is kind of the most classic, he was El Sonero Mayor, he was one of the original guys. I love that dude.
All right. Anything you want to add that I forgot to mention?
No, not really, except that I'm gonna be 50 in a couple of months, which couple of weeks actually, which is crazy to me. Just, I'm old, brother. That's what I will say.
All
But
right,
I'll
man.
leave you with this. I'll leave you with this.
Sure,
For those
sure.
of you who don't know, um, just look for a picture of what I look like right now. Just go look at a picture, and then you look at a picture of Wilford Brimley, who in 1985 made a movie called Cocoon. He was an actor in the
Oh,
movie
wow.
Cocoon. Wilford Brimley with a big mustache, talking about diabetes in commercials later. When he filmed that movie, he was 49 years old, and I am 49 years old. So Wilford Brimley and me are the same age as when he did Cocoon. Which is I'm just living my Wilford Brimley year. It's one of the things that I keep just like shaking my head about. I'm about to be 50. It's crazy.
All right, and thanks again. All right.
Cool,
Hopefully
dude.
we'll do this again soon. All right. Talk soon. Have a
All right.
wonderful day and feel better.
See you soon, man. Be well.